October the 14th, 2024 at 5:30 p.m. With that, Madam Secretary, I'll certify we have a quorum present for City Council. All members are present with the exception of Member Patel. With that, I'll turn it over to the chairman for roll call and certification of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Thank you, Your Honor. We do have a quorum. The only commissioner missing tonight is Commissioner Jennifer Stockdick, now known as Jennifer Ordno.
Good deal. All right, with that, Madam Secretary, did we have any citizen comments turned in? There were none, so we'll move forward with the purpose of the workshop, input and discussion regarding Unified Development Code, UDC plan development, minor deviations from approved design plan. With that, we'll turn it over to staff to kick it off.
Thank you, Mayor Cole, members of council, Chair, P&Z, and commissioners. Thank y'all for joining us. Kind of a unique situation. We don't see these very often. Tonight, we're going to visit and look for consensus on applying a specific section of the Unified Development Code. And so these do come up, and at times we are able to call on P&Z as the recommending body, on council as the voting body, to assist staff with interpreting and applying certain sections of the code. So with that, the purpose of the workshop is to discuss and provide feedback regarding a proposed change of the parking layout from a two-story wrapped parking deck to a one-story parking garage with an amenity deck on top. Specifically, we're going to be looking at section 2226B, minor deviations from approved design plan. These are changes that can be approved by staff following the creation of a plan development. So before we went too far down the rabbit hole, I just wanted to take a moment and kind of refresh on the project in general. The domain at Smith Ranch is located on the west side of town. There you can see 288 to the left of your screen. You have Hughes Ranch to the top. And then the highlighted area in red represents 18 parcels that make up this planned development. They're off Smith Ranch Road between Smith Ranch 1 and Smith Ranch 2. So a little bit of history. The domain at Smith Ranch planned development was originally created in November of 2022. It's a mixed-use planned development that allows for 330 multifamily units. The domain, as it was called, was a specific project or product of City Street, the multifamily builder at the time. So that multifamily builder is no longer in the picture, and at this time the owner has partnered with Rockefeller Group, which has a very similar product that converts the second story of the originally approved parking deck to an amenity area. So with that, that brings us to this fifth bullet here, which is kind of the crux of the conversation. In the design plan for the original approved PD, it called out that a 4-story structure surrounding a 2-story parking deck and interior courtyards would be in place. So before we start looking at any site plans, I wanted to walk y'all through 2226B of minor deviations from the Unified Development Code. So this is the section that allows for certain changes to happen to an approved PD following adoption. So number 1, corrections in spelling, distances, and other labeling that does not affect the overall development concept. Number 2, changes in building position or layout that are less than 10 feet or 10% in size. Number 3, changes in the proposed property lines as long as the original stated project acreage is not exceeded. And number 4, what we'll be looking for consensus on tonight is changes in parking layouts as long as the number of required spaces in general original design is maintained. So just a few highlights. There are no use changes proposed. There's no change in the phasing plan. I call this out just because whenever you see larger plan developments that have a catalyst with out parcels, you'll see some conversation around the development of those out parcels and the timing. This PD did call out that one of the out parcels would be done in consistency or concurrently with the multifamily part. There's no change there. The development will meet the allowable number of units. They're meeting the parking requirements. And then whenever, specifically just to look at the 10% allowance or the deviation option, the original design is approximately 390,000 square feet. So 10% of that would allow for building position or layout changes up to 39,000 square feet. And the courtyard and parking deck changes that we're going to look at here in a moment are about 27. So we're under that 10% threshold. And then staff believes, but we're looking for consensus from everyone on the general design plan, and we think that is still being maintained. So now just an opportunity to look at the site plan. You have the original site plan on the left that was approved in November of 22. Here you can see around the perimeter, surface parking in combination with these little structures are detached garages. These labeled units with a letter are the different apartment units. This would be the 4-story section. You have the courtyard number 1 and courtyard number 2, and then this in the gray would be that 2-story parking deck. So off to the right is the proposed site plan that Rockefeller is sharing, and we're looking for consensus on applying that change and allowing the allowable deviations. Again, surface parking around the perimeter, They've consolidated the detached garages into this little corridor here, more of an attached feel, but just to show that the garages are still in place. And then here you can see the interior. This would just be interior surface parking, and here would be that second floor of the deck, and that would be converted into an amenity. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Rockefeller just to walk us through some of what they're envisioning for that concept.
Is this on?
There you go.
Okay, thank you. I was going to just take a minute and introduce Rockefeller Group just because it is a new name in Texas. My name is Philip Croker. I am the head of what's called the Southwest region for Rockefeller Group, which is Texas and Arizona. It's a region we just started up about a year ago, headquartered here in Houston. Been there for about a year. Came from Heinz, who we all know, I think, in Houston. I was at Heinz for about 20 years. To come over to Rockefeller Group to start up this new platform. So just a little bit about Rockefeller. It is the Rockefeller you think of when you think of like the Rockefeller Center in New York. That is where the company got its start almost 100 years ago. I point out the Rockefeller Center not because this is what we're trying to do here, but it is the kind of legacy and the quality and the test of time that Rockefeller is very interested in. We're not looking for middle-of-the-road development. We're looking for differentiated, high-quality development, whether that's industrial, multifamily, office, or other. I also want to point out another differentiator for us, just that I think is important, which is we actually, for the last 40 years, wholly owned by Mitsubishi Estate. And you might wonder, well, why is that? Why does that matter? What's different about us is a typical developer you see, a Heinz or anyone else for that matter, when they're doing a development, Heinz or someone else might be 5% of a total project with partners. Rockefeller, we're 100%. We don't have partners. That's full commitment from Mitsubishi and Rockefeller that when we're doing developments, it's just us. It's that money. We don't bring in other partners. And I think that's important to the kind of commitment we show. There's a lot of words here, so I'm not going to bore you with them, but it's just the kind of things that we talk about. Extraordinary properties, exceptional experiences, a love of people, a love of the city, a respect of the city, passion. We want to be passionate about what we're doing. The details matter. And what we're talking about here today are details. We're trying to tweak something to get a better product for the user here. And I think that's really important. Continuous improvement. Again, we're trying to take an idea, tweak it, and make it that much, just a little bit better and appropriate. I'm not going to bore you. I mean, there's Rockefellers across the country at this point. Texas is obviously new, but again, the things that we're trying to do and putting our name behind are things that are of the highest quality. We're trying to push the boundary and not just meet what the market does, but we're trying to be better than that to provide a better experience for the people that use it. Our region, again, my name's Philip. I'm at the top somehow, but we are quickly building out a team. Tim Wooten, at my right, is part of this new team. It's been a busy year hiring people, but I'm looking forward to not being in an interview room, growing this team, and actually moving forward with product. We are a boutique firm. I think it's important. We're not trying to be a big developer. We're trying to be very nimble. So as we look at Texas, just for your own information, we're doing on our books, we're trying to do 2 multifamily products in all of Texas right now. One's here in Katy. We would love to be here in Pearland. And again, we're not trying to do 10 of these. We're trying to do 2 a year or something of that magnitude. So with that, I'll hand it over to Tim to walk through the details of what we're asking here. Thank you.
Thank you, Philip. My name is Tim Wooten, as Philip mentioned. I've been with the Rockefeller Group for about 10 months, so not even a full year. As Philip mentioned, really, we are trying to be a boutique developer here where only focusing on a couple of deals allows us to try and do them better than everyone else. And with that, wanted to just go through very briefly our other project that we're working on in Katy, to just give you a sense of what sort of design characteristics we feel is going to fit best for Smith Ranch Road. So one thing to note here is that this is a 4-story, dense, centralized product that's built around 2 buildings as opposed to 12, What this allows us to do is it allows us to build closed, air-conditioned corridors that have access control, that are serviced by elevators. That sort of building structure then allows us to, as you mentioned before, put in tuck-under garages that sort of give a better resident experience as opposed to detached, where you have to just walk across the parking lot. And also, just to show you this rendering, this is just an example of the types of materials and finishes that we'd be looking to bring here. Masonry, stone, all top of the market, to just show our commitment that we aren't just trying to be a middle-of-the-road developer. It's quality, not quantity for us. And these are just a couple of general renderings. This is actually a paseo that leads directly from building 2 to building 1 as a design feature. It goes straight to the pool and to the main courtyard. Again, trying to just showcase that we're looking for something that residents feel, actually excited about as they're walking and living through this deal. So with that in mind, those same design characteristics we wanted to keep at the forefront as we started to look at the Smith Ranch Road. So when we got connected with Nick and we took a look at the site plan, there were a couple of improvements right off the bat, some that Vance already mentioned. One is the elimination of detached garages, putting it into the back of the structure. The other was then actually expanding and enhancing the existing amenity spaces, so the courtyards and the pool area. And then finally, we were able to modify and make more efficient the building layout itself to where we could satisfy the 1.6 parking requirement before we even really touched the parking garage. So with that, getting, to why we're all here, our project team then went to Matt and Vance, and we just said, okay, well, what else can we do? How can we go above and beyond? And the creative solution that we came up with was an amenity deck. What if we could provide something that was great, an additional unique outdoor space for residents while still providing covered parking on the first floor? So this is a side view of that said structure. As I mentioned, as you can see, there'll still be covered parking on the first floor as you come in from the main entrance. We actually then switched the design of the units that were adjacent to the space to where they're no longer facing it, just to alleviate any noise concerns or anything of that nature. So then we have this space, but what are we going to do with it? What are we going to put on top of it? And our team had a lot of fun sort of trying to figure out what would fit best here, and we wanted to walk you through a couple of the options that we think would work well. The first is what we'd call the sort of classic courtyard. As you've seen here, we'd have some really nice aesthetic landscaping around the border, just so that residents, whether you're walking through, whether you're having lunch, you feel like it's a nice, relaxing area. Be a grill space up to the top left, a nice seating, garden seating down there in the south, and then a sort of flex space there up the north, whether people are lounging out or even having a community theater night. But, looking at the project as in its entirety, we've already providing this in a sense with the existing courtyard. So the second option, and the one that we're most excited to show you tonight, is sort of the sport court. So again, keeping in the theme of what residents really we feel are best for this space, we're targeting the young, active professionals, and we wanted to give them something that allows them to just be, more athletic, to be more active. And so while this is a conceptual plan, we think there's a couple of key features. One is the sport courts, as you guys can see, whether it's tennis, whether it's pickleball, we want something that people can go out, whether it's a Saturday morning, they want to do some exercise that they can go to. Then the other is on the east side, a sort of flex space, whether they want to have yoga, whether they want to lounge. We still want it to be accessible for everyone that doesn't necessarily, that isn't playing a sport. But again, we really think that this sort of ties in and differentiates our deal and attracts the young professionals that both the city and ROC want for this sort of project. And I'm now going to walk you through a couple of those perspectives that our landscape architect has put together. Again, we wanted to make sure the space still felt soft and pleasing as you're going through it. So sort of the design elements and the landscaping around the courts, the sort of ivy wall in the back, sort of seating area. And that's it. I'll now hand it back to Vance.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Philip. So at this point, we've seen the section of the UDC related to allowable deviations. We've seen the request and kind of what that rendering is. I did want to kind of flew through my section, but at the same time, we wanted to keep this fairly condensed. This is a request that staff is favorable of. We think it's a really cool concept. And just to take a moment and kind of say something that hasn't been said, with these being 4-story buildings, the ones surrounding the parking area would be looking down at the top of cars. And so this would be, I think, a more enjoyable transition or a change that would allow that to be a more usable space for young people. Obviously, the pickleball sports court really resonated with everyone here. We thought that was a really, really interesting concept. But with that, I think, from staff's perspective, that's what we wanted to share. And from that, Mayor Cole, I'll hand it back over to you for P&Z and council
All
discussion.
right, sounds good. I'm going to start with planning and zoning. Chairman, why don't you get your members to weigh in first if they have any questions or comments?
Why don't we start all the way over to the right, Mr. McDonald?
Thank you, sir. Vance, are we looking for, what are we looking for here? Are you looking for concurrence that this meets the minor deviation?
Yes, sir. So we'd be looking for consensus that the minor deviation regarding the parking change would apply to this request.
And if the consensus isn't, then they would go back through the amendment process?
Correct. So if we can't find consensus, the developer's options would be to build to the PD as it is originally approved, or they could come back and go through a plan development amendment.
And it's your interpretation as the community development / planning director that it does meet the requirements for a minor deviation?
It was very close to call, and so, but I am favorable to the request. Yes, sir.
I mean, I think what they're proposing, very similar to what was originally approved. I think the whole purpose of minor deviations is to allow some flexibility in design. A lot of times, even with the same company, you're going to see changes based on what they get in the ground or what the market does. And I wish staff would have felt like they could just move forward with this, because I feel like we've just held up the project 2 more weeks to go through this process. But I'm in favor of letting staff declare it a minor deviation and move forward. Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Eccles, I want to give acknowledgement to the staff and their team. The only concern I would have is any change orders that would cause even more deviation. If we give the deviation here, being within the 10%, we need to be cognitive of any change order. We don't give them another 10%.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that feedback. And something that we've already spoke to Rockefeller about is, now's the time. If there were going to be other changes, and they've confirmed there won't be any.
I'm in favor.
Commissioner Hendricks here. I really like the concept. I think it's very cool. It's something very different. The only feedback I would have is I'm definitely in favor of it, is that area being so low, will it be a hot box? Because you can't get airflow in. And I'm not sure where you guys are from, but it gets steamy hot here. So that would just be my only recommendation for the residents, to make sure you find a way to get airflow through there. But other than that, I like the concept. Thank you.
Thank you. I can see fans being out there or something to just for airflow, but we agree.
Commissioner Eisenberg, yeah, I'm in favor of it also. I think that it looks like you're bringing a good product over there, and the deviation is if staff is content with it, then I'm fine with it.
All right, Commissioner Fortes, I thought I heard you say that financing was not going to be an issue because of the Mitsubishi backing. I think that's why the first group fell out, if I'm not mistaken, or lately there's been an issue with multifamily projects moving forward because of the difficulty in financing, all the way from interest rates to just lack of and extra capital needed, and then deposits required, et cetera, right? So good to hear. The one concern I had was the picture that you guys showed of the Katy project. That to me looked like a 4-story garden style with a little bit of fancy to it. I thought, I don't recall, but I thought the council was more in favor of the urban style, not the garden style. And I've even seen a couple of projects, one being built off 1128, currently 1128 in Magnolia, the southwest corner. That seems to be a garden style, but it seems like they've put some facades going up front, covering the hip roofs to give it more of an urban style. And I thought that's what we were shooting for, realizing that was Katy, not this one, but I would hope that you stick to that. If that was in the original HUD, I thought, or PD, I'm sorry, I thought it was.
Vance, can you put that up? Just put the Katy project up real quick.
I think it needs to be
That's
done
on
on
there.
my side.
Oh, okay, sorry.
And,
Just for reference, that way.
Yes,
you can
sir.
See it. Yeah.
yes, sir.
Yeah, right there. Okay, thanks.
Still kind of has that somewhat of a garden feel from the fourth floor up, right? Not necessarily the lower.
I think I like your comment, by the way, and the urban style is actually what we're after. I mean, we're looking for something that's part of the intent of having one structure versus having 12 or 15 and a lot of parking is to create that more monolithic look. In Katy, the demand was a little bit different. We were going for that farmhouse look out there. There was a specific mission behind the aesthetics here, but we will have no problem meeting that objective.
Fantastic. And the 10% rule, it being in the UDC, I was completely unaware of it. I'm all in favor of it. I've always asked, with some other things that come in, the 3-to-1 rule, land rule that we tend to see a lot of. I've been in favor of when the UDC comes back for a rewrite that we edit that and let staff make that call. And if there's maybe the Planning and Zoning Commission, instead of hearing each one of those cases, becomes then the board that hears. If staff says no, then we could have a shot at it if the client or applicant wishes to do so. So I'm completely in favor of staff, utilizing the UDC the way it's written. If you have 10% and you feel like this is under 10% to continue. And a last side comment. Y'all are gonna not like this one. I think during the negotiations, you all specified that there be a mixed use commercial area right there. I've been doing commercial real estate for 20 years now, and I just don't know that this is the right place for commercial real estate on the pad site. So I know that's a completely off-topic rabbit trail, but sorry, you guys would have to hold on to that probably forever. Any more comments from anyone? Jennifer has one more, please. I'm sorry.
Okay, and I also like the pickleball tennis court option. And nobody commented on
I
that.
do too, but I just got injured doing it. So I'm hoping younger people are better at it than I am.
I think you'll attract more younger people or anybody that's into that.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, thank you for that. We'll turn it over to council for questions, comments. Ms. Cade?
I really like this. I like the pickleball and tennis courts also. I think that maybe in the month of December, you could turn them into an ice skating rink and put a big, huge Christmas tree down there, and that would
Like
really
Rockefeller
be.
Center.
Sounds like more injuries, by the way.
And that would cool it off also, Jennifer. So thank you. I think it looks great.
Great comment. Ms. Chavarria?
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you so much for the presentation. I truly like the sports court. I think it's a great, fresh, trendy idea. So the question that I have, Vance, and I'm just trying to understand, because I've been on council, Tom, for not even 11 months. So can you explain to me the 10% ruling or the 10% on how we can, I guess, approve the PD? Because the PD was approved at 330, correct? So we're not exceeding that. The only thing that we're really changing is the units plus parking.
So the allowable units, the maximum allowed units in the original PD were 330. They're still under that. I think they're at 320. They're at 320 units. And then, so still under that. And yeah, so the 10% in staff's interpretation, the 10% deviation would allow for potentially this type of change, but would take into consideration the square footage of the living area and the parking structure.
Okay, thank you.
So.
Koza?
Thank you, Mayor. So I know Vance said that y'all wouldn't get past the 10% creep that Commissioner Eccles, I would like to hear that from y'all, that this would be the change that y'all want to be able to move forward, and we wouldn't come back with further changes as far as that goes.
Yeah, we're here to confirm that. This is exactly what we want to build.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to get y'all.
I appreciate the question.
Instead of his comments on that. And then in regards to when Commissioner Fortes talked about the commercial, this might be a question for the Motomedes here. I know that we were talking about when y'all first came in here, approximately half of it being developed at the time of the units here. Is that still the plan?
Hi there. Yeah, so that's still the plan. Originally, when we were City Street, the plan was for us to do that project ourselves and City Street to do the multifamily. Currently, the plan is for Rockefeller to build the retail as well and then sell it back to us. So we'll be building 6,000 at the start and then continue to add as time goes.
All right, that's what I just wanted to know, where we were at, if we were still. So there, y'all are going to do the work Rockefeller, and then you'll turn around and lease it or sell it
back to us.
Okay, all right.
Same phasing structure, though. Good.
Right. I just wanted to make sure none of that had changed
Good.
as far as that goes.
Background there was, since they have to be delivered concurrently, it's easier for us to control the destiny of both, and then.
Yeah, no, I get that. I just wanted, that was one of the promises or things that were going to happen. I just want to make sure that that was still part of this process. So thank you very much.
Byron?
Thank you. I agree with the project. I like the idea as well. The question that I had was can we put the side-by-side up real quick?
That's going to be Vance.
Yeah. So in the original plan, and I did some quick math, which is usually a bad idea, but looks like there's 60 garage parking spots in the original plan, and the new one has 26. So I was wondering where the idea came. You spoke to it very briefly about, we thought it would be better to put it in the back, but it's also half the amount of covered parking.
Yeah, between the cover, there's two parts of that. One is we did want to get rid of the detached garages because we don't think it's not a good look. I don't think it's a good experience. So between the tuck-in garages that you were counting, plus the covered parking, which is essentially protected parking as well, maybe not protected by a door, we thought it was meeting the same kind of similar market for parking.
So it's more of an aesthetic choice than anything else.
Yeah, I think it's a better experience, frankly.
Okay. And there's nothing in our UDC or anything that regulates that.
No, so the changes, if that was the only change, we would not need this workshop. That second floor conversion from parking to a deck is really what drove needing some consensus around this project.
That was the only aside from the fact that we're doing a outdoor area instead of a parking, so that was the main visual difference that I noticed. So yeah, that was it. I was just wondering what the why was behind that. But otherwise, I love it. I think it's a great idea. I think it's unique. So thanks for bringing it here.
All right. Any other comments, Mr. Carbone?
I agree, and I think it's a minor deviation that staff can handle. Have we got was it a PUD or a PID or all that figured out for this property?
We're still moving forward. Believe we got the proposed changes to a development agreement that we had shared with the developer early last week. I want to say on Monday or Tuesday of last week. We've not gone through those changes and said what we can and can't do. And we're still working with our partnership with the Motomedes on that pit itself.
Yeah, if I can add, we have talked to our neighbors and have our neighbors on board for the pit. So as soon as we get the development agreement executed, our neighbors are ready to go as well.
All right, thank you.
Good deal. Mr. Chairman, you got anything? All right. I'm glad you brought that up, Mayor Pro Tem. I just wanted to make sure that the Rockefellers were aware that currently there's a deficiency in trying to get sewer to that property due to a lift station capacity. So I want to make sure that you're fully aware of that, and that's what we're working through. So that's not a surprise to you. So I'm just glad everybody has that on the table. I have a quick question. So in the PD itself, it obviously, and it wasn't brought as a part of this, but it sounds like they're going to build, something relatively close to the look and feel that we had with the Domain. So is there any changes to the look, the feel that the Domain was bringing in and I can't, and I don't have the PD in front of me, so I don't know how it was listed by material, percentages of materials, those types of things. But have you looked at that PD, and does that meet the design?
Yes, sir.
standard?
Our understanding by looking at the definition of the PD for 80% to 50% masonry on the various elevations of the building, the definition of masonry being cementitious material, hardy plank, etc. We're keeping all of that. That is no problem for us.
That was the only thing. I know it wasn't a deviation that we talked about here, but two different developers, you have different looks, and just want to make sure that the material, that could be one of those that's they could come back later and say, we need to tweak that a little bit, or whatever the case may be. No, I like the changes. I think at the end of the day, it meets a little bit of what you started with your presentation, that you want to be a standard bearer. You don't want to be an also-ran. You want to be the guy that's pushing the limit and bringing something that's higher quality than was previous planned. And I think that does this. I think the additional space, I echo. I think the sports decking would really go well there. Not sure how it works if there's units that back up to it. I mean, all of a sudden you could have direct access to it from your units. I could see some of those types of things where those units would go more because they have direct access to, and I don't know, I don't live in an apartment, so I don't know how that typically works if they have that access. So I think it's bringing that. What is your timeline? I mean, we're here tonight, and Vance, I'll say I appreciate the transparency in bringing this to council, making sure that because it is like right there, and I think the transparency of all this is good. It's good for the public, it's good for council, and it's good for the developers. But what's your timeline? I think we have a consensus tonight. But.
Yeah, and our time frame is as fast as we can move. And obviously there's a lot to happen, and we got to get the development agreement done. We got to get the PID done. But that's what we're waiting on that, to be honest. I mean, I think it's probably a January closing. I think if we had the best guess, if that were November, we would have been really happy. January is just fine. But this is not something that we're trying to put into the bank and hold for another cycle. We're trying to go right now. So we're trying to move as fast as we can right now.
All right. Mr. Chair, if you've got any wrap-up comments, anyone over there? All good?
No, sir. No, thank you.
Vance, you and your team, you have any wrap-up?
No, appreciate everyone's time.
All right. Council, any last call for comments? Don't see any. All right. We're going to close this joint development workshop. We appreciate you guys coming our way, and we'll get ready for our meeting here in just a few minutes.